The program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning everybody, and welcome to what can only be described as a well-overcast, quite ominous morning here with Safari Live.
Ready.
Standing by.
Five, four, three, two, one. You are live, you are live.
My name is James Hendry, as some of you may know and some of you may not, and right now Craig, who's on camera, and I are the only people out in the wilderness today. That on account of the fact of the darkness. The other person joining us today, of course, will be Stefan Winterboer, but he cannot go walking around in his little veldschoens at the moment because it is too dark. And the reason it is too dark is because there is a very thick blanket of cloud up above us, and it is covering the, well, rather timid efforts of the sun to shine upon this day, the 16th of March, 2017. Oh. Hyena tracks. We would love to hear from you during the course of our 3-hour safari. Hashtag Safari Live is how you get hold of us. And, you know, the way things going at the moment, I am on my own talking to you, and so it would be much appreciated if you would have a conversation with me, rather than making this a soliloquy until the sun manages to get itself out of bed to do a little bit of shining. Our plan, as seems to be usual these days, is to head towards the southern boundary, see if we can't find any evidence of Karula. I did that very late last night as we were doing some final camera checks on the night cameras that we have, but we were unsuccessful in relocating Hosana, who we did see just before the tests actually went up. So he and Karula were on Djuma yesterday, so with any luck they are still there, and perhaps they've killed something. Anyway, that's what we're going to go and have a look for. If I fail to find them within the first little while, we're going to head across to Cheetah Plains, because I haven't been there since the rains, since the great deluge, and I'd like to go and see some of the birds they have on offer there, although with the weather like this, I'm not sure how good the birds will be. So talk to us please, hashtag Safari Live. As soon as it's light enough, I will do my level best to find some interesting piece of biology. And then one of the interesting things that's going to happen today is that we have a school joining us this morning from Hong Kong. Can you believe it? And that will be at 7 o'clock for 45 minutes. Rebecca, do we know how old they are today? We will find out how old they are. Oh, they are pre-teens, 12 to 13 years of old, which indicates that in fact only some of them are pre-teens, because if you are in fact 13, you are a teen. Well done, yes. Good, okay, so it's pretty adult drive. No, Craig did not answer that, Rebecca. Craig, as you know, is almost silent. That man on camera, Rebecca in the final control, being ably assisted by Meg Han. There's a lot going on out here at the moment, isn't there, Craig? Swathes of wildlife streaming across the road, in various states of joy at being out at this time of the morning. And what I'm hoping for, other than leopards, of course, is to add to my chameleon tally, which reached a spectacular 3 last night. It was very impressive. Oh, hello Abigail in Canada. Thank you very much for getting hold of us and giving me my first conversation topic of the day. I'll have to stretch it out a bit while we wait for the light. You say, who is my favorite leopard? Well, I actually can answer that. I would love to. I used to think it was Hosana, actually. Well, initially it was Mvula when I got here. I liked him because he wasn't a big fellow, and yet he'd forged a way in a world where size really does count for a huge amount. So I quite liked him. But then he decided that he would retire elsewhere, and so he's gone away from us, and we don't see him very often anymore. Every so often he comes down here, but not much. Then I thought when Hosana was born it would definitely be him, because he's a young male leopard, and everybody yet loves a young male leopard because they're so confiding, and normally they're hugely playful and they're great to watch as they grow up. Well, I enjoy Hosana deeply, but much to my surprise, his sister Xongile has wheedled her way into my heart, and she managed to do that, of course, the first sighting we had of her on foot, when she climbed into that tree just above us and sat there regally for, I don't know, must have been about 5 minutes or so. Now obviously since then we've spent quite a lot of time with her on foot, but that particular incident where she chose to approach us and then sat with us for that special time is etched in my memory, and I think that's why Xongile at the moment is my favorite leopard. Good question. Let us head down here. I also would like to visit the hyena den at some stage. And Ellen, we're about to go over what you're talking about here, a big bump. You'll see the rising of the car. Oh, and the shaking of the presenter. Down we go. And you want to know why those bumps are there and who put them there. Well, they were put there by the Djuma staff, the Djuma road maintenance crew, and they are simply drainage humps, Ellen. So what they do is, when the water flows down the road, especially after some of the rain that we've had, it tends to cause erosion. And if you don't have those bumps to channel it and slow it down and move it off the road, you get these roads eventually turning into rivers. So that's the point of them, and they were put there by the Djuma maintenance staff, as opposed to the elephants, for example. And they're an extremely important part of trying to reduce soil erosion out here. So that's a good question from you. Thank you, Ellen. They also, of course, serve the purpose of slowing people down, which is important out here. Sometimes we do get a little overzealous and enthusiastic, and we need to remember that speed is very seldom of the essence. Out here in the wilderness, the whole point is to kind of woosa and take it in, take it all in, and not race around from sighting to sighting, which is often tempting to do. I've heard nothing else on the Game Drive radio. I think we might be entirely alone out here, which is quite a nice feeling, I might say. And hopefully we'll be able to find some form of biology in the not too distant future to tell you about. In fact, let's go to the top of this little ridge here, and then we'll stop and have a listen to what's going on around us. You can see that is all the natural light that there is. Turn those off. So it is getting a little bit brighter. I'm going to be quiet for exactly 15 seconds. Alright, let's go through what we can hear. Obviously there is the Cape turtle dove, or the ringneck dove, going ploop, 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 ploop. Some red-backed shrikes going tick, 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 tick. The first bird we heard there was a southern boo-boo going. And then there is the white-browed scrub robin going. Then there was some Egyptian geese going. Quack, 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 quack. Good. 24 degrees Celsius, 74 degrees Fahrenheit it was at the very beginning of the drive. I think it's probably about the same as that now. That was at the weather station at Djuma. We're a little bit lower down than that, so we've probably lost a degree or so. Goodness, there is a very brave fellow out there, Stefan Winterboer, probably on account of the fact that he feels sorry for me waffling away on my own out here, has taken it upon himself to head out into the wild on foot in the dark.
I'm sure James would be able to waffle non-stop going forward, but it's not quite dark, although I do agree with James's sentiments that it's pretty ominous morning this morning, but there is a sense of peace to it, and I must be honest with you, standing out here on quarantine clearings, I'm starting to feel that sense of peace that this morning is bringing as well. Now, my name is Stefan Winterboer. We are on walk. Today we have Rowan on walk today. It's the first time that I am joined by Rowan on a walk, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of adventure for you today. What our plans are, I don't really know, to be honest. It's one of those early days where I haven't really had the time to think about what type of safari plan I have today. So probably just do the old safety trick and put your face into the wind and see where it takes you. What we do have though is we've got a couple of impala making an alarm call here. So there's an impala herd that lives on top of quarantine clearings. Sometimes they're on the far side, sometimes they're in the middle, sometimes they're on this side. Right now they seem to be in this thicket of tall trees that we have out here on the horizon. And although not making alarm calls like they would if it was a leopard, for instance, they become quite frenzied, quite panicked. It does sound like they're seeing something that they don't quite understand. Could be a hyena, could be a lion. And so proceed with caution is probably what you need to do when there's still cricket singing and you're on foot in the middle of this massive wilderness area. Luckily, the grass is pretty long and I'm speaking with a raised tone of voice, and I do that I'm doing that with a reason. Why I'm speaking with a raised tone of voice and not whispering like you sometimes hear us whisper when we're approaching animals is because I want my voice to travel. Anything that's sleeping or lying down in this tall grass will lift their head at the sound of a human's voice. And that profile of a cat, think of your dog lying on the lawn. As soon as your dog lifts their head up or your cat lifts their head up against the window when they're lying on a couch, their profile becomes immediately apparent. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here, is get anything that's lying in the grass in front of us here to lift their head up so we can see what it is. And obviously, I stand a chance of ruining a stalk if a lion or a leopard is stalking these impala, but I'd rather not be eaten today. And we can see something else. So let's head to this termite mound and we'll take it from there. These clouds, let's see if I can show you these clouds en route. I don't know if I'm going to be setting Rowan up for a bit of a mission at the moment. Look at, see if you can see how fast these clouds are moving across the sky. Now there's not much wind where we are right now, but see if you can see. Quite difficult because it's still very dark for us, but let me just tell you that the clouds are moving faster than I could run across this open area, across the sky, which means that at the level that they're at, there is some strong winds, and clouds approaching from the south, which is that direction there that they are approaching from, is where we get our rain from. Now, I haven't looked at a weather report in quite some time, probably more than a week, and I don't actually know what weather systems we are going to experience. I don't know if we're in for another bout of rain. I don't know if we're in for a dry week. I'm not too sure at all, actually. It's going to be quite interesting to see what these clouds bring. But usually these quiet mornings, fast clouds, thick bank, quite low, it does mean that we'll probably get some rain. I'm hoping so. We are about probably about 100 or 200 millimeters short of rain this year. Now, Shauna, You've just asked the question. Oh, you've just. I suppose it's more of a statement you've asked. Why did my teammates not allow me to drive? It's actually my own imposed rule there, Shauna. It's not that I cannot drive or don't ever go and drive. It's just I enjoy walking far, far more than I enjoy being out on the vehicle. And given the choice, I would always default or choose to go on a walk rather than be in the vehicle. Why? I don't know. I just enjoy the freedom that a walk gives you. You don't have to stick to roads. You can walk pretty much where you want to here, and it just expands your horizons. In the 2 years that I've been walking around here on Djuma Private Game Reserve, I still don't have an idea about certain areas, where certain game paths go, what is inside certain thickets out here, and it's nice. It's nice to know that there are places that are unexplored. Personally, I quite enjoy having challenges where things are left unexplored, or that there's an option to go and explore things out here. It's nice. It's an incentive for me. Right, let's have a look at what's going on over here. Now, literally, I would say up to about 2 or 3 weeks ago, the grass on top of these open clearings was knee-high, and then we started to see a lot of wildebeest, a lot of general game started to move into these areas, and they tend at night time to clump together. They don't sleep as often as what I thought they would, and I'll tell you about that as we go on with this morning's safari. I was enlightened as to some animal behavior over this week, so I'll tell you some more about that. But what we're looking at here is one of these sleeping patches. You can see that it's been basically cleared of grass, and that is because it's wildebeest that have been sleeping here. And if you come and have a look over here, it's a very good track and sign of what's going on. This is the scraping of a male wildebeest, which scraped his toes. They've got glands between the digits of their front toes. He scraped the sand with his front foot, male wildebeest. It secretes the glandular secretion onto the sand. He then rolls in it, which gets basically all his toe gunk onto his skin, and then he stands up. And the wind that blows across these open areas then has a higher point at which to pick up the scent, and his scent carries over the plains much further than it would if it was just pasted on the ground, and of course enticing any other ladies in the area, as well as intimidating hopefully any other males in the area. So this is from a wildebeest, and we're starting to see these patches develop all over the place as the wildebeest move on to these open areas. None here today though. Right, now on that note, we are going to send you over to James, who has arrived at a pan. I'm sure, I can't remember which one though.
I've got arrived at a pan. Indeed, I have got arrived at a pan, and I've got arrived at a pan. A hippopotamus, the water in under has gone. And here start us the search leopard for Karula and cubs. Word or radio on is that Karula found was there by Leadwood Road night yesterday. Good. I'm not sure why I'm speaking like that. It is my Yoda game drive speak. We're sitting here, of course, at Twin Dams. We're going to wait once more for that hippopotamus to come out of the water. Here, the water surface is like a mill pond, broken only by the hippopotamus that has just popped up, and I think you might find is a little bit nervous of us. That's why it's under the water. And what I wanted to say is, of course, that the surface is going to be broken by drops of, or not drops, but by air bubbles coming up from what I'm sure is going to be a fairly large population of catfish fairly soon in this area. Now, Martina, I forget where you're from, sorry about that. You were wondering about what animals are dangerous in the dark. Well, you're from the Czech Republic. That's wonderful to hear from you, so thank you for getting hold of us all the way from the Czech Republic. You say, what animals are dangerous in the dark? Well, any animal that is confident in the dark, or more confident than it would be in the daytime, and that would include just about all of our nocturnal predators. So leopards, lions and hyenas would be the things that you wanted to watch out most for in the darkness. They can tell basically whether you can see properly or not, because, well, you can tell if somebody can see properly or not. If someone is blundering around the place, tripping over things, it's very clear that they are either drunk or unable to see. And lions and hyenas especially are no different. Well, leopards the same. But we often see lions on foot here and often see hyenas on foot here during the daytime, and they will almost universally move away from you to try and get away. They might stand their ground and growl, but basically they're saying, I don't want to be around you, you need to move away. The same is not the case as soon as the sun goes down. It's why in camp we're very careful about walking around in the dark with torches. We don't want to surprise especially a lion or a hyena at night, because they can then, well, they start to see you much more as prey during the night time than they do during the day. Then also any kind of animal that you can't see. Obviously we're blinded at night. Buffalo tend to be more threatened at night because you can easily walk into them without them kind of realizing that you haven't seen them. They're perhaps not quite as bright as some of the predators. That might be unfair, but I think they're probably not quite there. And so they can be dangerous at night. And just about all of the incidents that I've heard of in lodges, and there have been quite a few where buffalo have hurt people, very seldom killed them, but often broken bones, have been where people are walking home at night. In the lodges, the buffalo come into the camp because they also feel a sense of security inside the camps. The predators tend to move away from them. They're also full of green grass and water and that sort of thing. And that's when people tend to get in trouble from buffalo. They walk around the side of a bush and there's a buffalo, and the buffalo gets a fright and then runs up, or sort of stands up and charges to get out of the way. And so buffalo, lions and hyenas, I suppose, would be the most dangerous animals at night. But remember, Martina, out here nothing is inherently dangerous. They're threatened by us, and that's why they become dangerous. Let's have one last look here and then let's move along. Pratine, you're wondering about the behavior of the animals and their sort of desire to sleep in the wake of a cloudy morning like this. Of course, most of us would still like to be in bed when it's chilly or cloudy and slightly oppressive weather, if you like, with low-hanging clouds. And you want to know if the animals have the same sort of approach to things. No, I don't think they do. But because they tend to stay in more thicker bush and more sheltered environments during weather like this, it perhaps looks like they get up a bit later. So no, I don't think they get up late. They've got to eat, regardless. So I think they're up. I just don't think that they're particularly confiding at the moment. There are many zebra and impala on quarantine clearings, or there were when we came past there. Alrighty, let's continue our search. I've just had word from Johan that he did see Karula last night around Leadwood Road Junction Cheetah cut line. That's the far eastern sector of Djuma. So we'll head around the southern boundary towards that area and see if we aren't lucky. That hippopotamus looks very contented in its little mill pond there. Nothing to threaten it whatsoever. So it will be very comfortable for the remainder of the day, we hope. Hello, Safari Shay. We've just been sitting next to some fairly grubby water, and as we know in many parts of the world, grubby water equals leeches. And you want to know if we get leeches here. It's a question we're actually asked relatively often. I've never found a leech here. I have been attached to by a leech every so often in South Africa, but not here. I've been attacked, if you like, by little leeches about that big, say about a centimetre long. They're not difficult to remove, but we do get them here. I've never found one here though, and I've walked in many of these ponds and pans in search of frogs normally, and I've never had any experience of leeches here. So I don't think they occur in great profusion around these parts. Now, what have we got knocking about on our southern boundary? Not a great deal at this stage. Hello Laura Moore, you're wondering why leeches are used for medical purposes and not ticks. Well, first of all, they eat different things. Ticks are, well, they are bloodsuckers, I suppose, but they're much smaller. They don't suck nearly as much blood as a big leech would be able to suck. They also give you disease. Now, a leech, as far as I know, doesn't do that. But I'm also, Laura, I'm going to ask you to tell me about any experiences you've had of leeches being used for medicine. As far as I'm aware, or as I thought, that practice went out with sort of the burning of witches and that sort of thing. I thought that leeches were not used medically at all anymore, or perhaps every so often to clear a very swollen piece of flesh, maybe. I don't know. I've certainly never had a leech attached to me, and were a doctor to say to me, well, I think you need to be bled, so we'll put a couple of leeches on you, I think I'd be rather suspicious of their qualifications. I'd be very interested to know if leeches are still used medically. Obviously they were in the Middle Ages, but I don't think so anymore. Right, we are just going to gather some information over here. Avusheni Minjani Kwalan Fugile. Ja, vare Johan Xongile lega Cheetah Catline Junction Ledwood mar Hosana and Xongile. Yeah, mar anti Iko. Okay. Enjoy. So we were just getting a little bit of information there from Harley, and he was in the same sort of vein as us, checking this area for Karula and for Hosana. Medical application of leeches. That's wonderful. So let's do a little bit of research on that, if you wouldn't mind. Let's find out if leeches are still used medically in the year 2017. But I'm reading a book at the moment about the 16th, or the 60, actually in 1600, so the Elizabethan era. And the chap's talking about, it's a classic novel, which many of you may well have read, called Shogun. And it's about an Englishman, basically, who fetches up in Japan circa 1600. And he talks about how in England it was considered unhealthy to live with the windows open. You kept all the windows shut. It was considered unhealthy to have a bath. They thought bath brought on the flux. Flux, as far as I understand it, was basically I guess some form of dysentery, and they thought baths brought that on, so they used to bath once a month. 29 was considered quite an old age. You'd probably have lost quite a few of your teeth by then. The house, if you were lucky, consisted of a bedroom and then a kind of utility room which contained your kitchen, an open wood fire that went to an opening in the roof, possibly the odd animal inside when it was really cold. And so they were environments of sort of disease and pestilence, and around then, of course, they used leeches to try and cure themselves of various illnesses. And I remember also from a wonderful series called The Black Adder. Now, if you have never seen The Black Adder, you need to do yourself a favor. And they set one of the series during the Elizabethan period, and I remember that Black Adder, in order to cure what he thought was a melodious affliction, he put a leech on his tongue, and so he was walking around talking like this, because the leech was sucking blood out of his tongue. And as far as I know, that practice has since ceased. There we go. That's interesting. So Tony and X-Ranger are saying that leeches are in fact used every so often for microsurgery, for example with reattaching digits, so were your finger to become detached from your person, you would apparently have a leech applied during the course of the microsurgery. That's very interesting indeed. But they used to be used to bleed people, because they believed that by bleeding people, by releasing the blood and taking some of it out of the body, you would lessen the amount of disease that there was. Craig, that knocking and banging noise was the aerial, was it? Oh yes, it's okay. It's back up. Now, we'd really like an animal to have a look at. I think that would be very nice. Then we wouldn't have to talk about the medical application of blood-sucking animals that we find in dirty ponds. Of course, the other interesting thing, or the most interesting thing, I think, in this book that I'm wading through at the moment, is how clean the Japanese were, and how they realized very early on that cleanliness was a far better warder off of disease than any other kind of practice. So while the Europeans had managed to build themselves world-traversing ships, astounding technologies from that respect, the Japanese, although they hadn't invented they had invented ocean-going ships, they just didn't have the technology to sail against the wind, and that's why they couldn't go around the world. They had, however, very sophisticated forms of medicine and personal hygiene that certainly made the English look like they had a lot left to be desired. Stefan is now on quarantine clearings. I hope that he has got some biology to show you. I'm going to continue with my leopard search.
I suppose us Europeans would need a high standard of medicine, being plagued by the Black Plague, which was perpetrated, I suppose, by our own filth, in a way. So I suppose there's much to learn from history and lessons. I quite like James's topic this morning about using insects and in particular for medicine or for helping us do our things. There's a big move in the world at the moment to try and understand the role of insects in sort of biological controls of different things. And just on James's theme of leeches and helping people in microsurgery, I couldn't quite get the topic that he was on about. I think attaching fingers was what it was, or probably something to do with the circulatory system, or at least keeping things clean. Maggots, which of course I try and love. I'm trying my best to change my opinion on what I think about flies, but flies obviously plague me like you have no idea, and so learning how to love them would obviously change the way that I think about them, turn them from massively irritating beasts into fascinating insects. And so I've dedicated the summer of 2017 to understanding the fly. And one of the things that I have found out is the fact that people are using maggots to clean wounds. So obviously a maggot is a fly larvae. It's what the fly comes from after the egg. So between the egg phase and the fly phase is a maggot. Maggots will quite often eat putrefying things, not just meat, but vegetables as well. But the blowfly maggot is particularly good at utilizing the dead skin of animals. And what people are doing nowadays is they've got a cut, and sometimes the cut gets infected for whatever reason. Rather than having your body overloaded with antibiotics and cutting out the necrotic flesh, they will put medical or medically cleansed maggots onto wounds, and the maggots will eat the dead flesh right to the edges where the body where the body's circulatory system can start to feed oxygenated blood to the tissue, and that way control infection. I just find that quite fascinating. Equally so, there's a South African company, I'm proud to say, that is pioneering a new type of protein powder Now, protein powder is added to animal feeds. It's what's given to animal feeds in order to boost their diet, because we farm at such high concentrations of animals that the bush, or as we call it, the veld, can't really sustain everything that these animals need when you're putting so many animals into a small place. And so feed is supplemented. Animal feed has a large constituent of animal protein in it. Now, as mad cow disease showed us all those years ago, you can't feed cows to cows, and so mostly the animal protein constitute of feed is made up of fish meal. That's where the most of our fish that we catch goes to. Fish meal. Fish meal is added to animal feeds, that's fed to animals, and so we circumvent mad cow disease. But obviously fisheries are being depleted worldwide, and there's a massive move to try and find a substitute for this particular protein. And a South African company has pioneered using fly protein or insect protein. So what they do, and this is quite amazing, is they go to abattoirs where offal, the intestines, is generally either thrown away or incinerated. They then make a protein jelly out of the offal. So they process that into a jelly. They put the jelly into plates about 2 inches thick, and on it they smear a layer of blowfly eggs. And then they incubate the eggs. Literally a couple of days later, the eggs hatch, and within a very short space of time, within another couple of days, the maggots grow many thousands of times their own size, or from the egg at least anyway, feeding on this blood protein. The maggots are then harvested, they are sterilized and freeze dried, and then crushed into a powder. And that powder is a very, very high quality animal protein, or it's a very high quality protein powder, which of course is then added to animal feeds. And because it's not, the chain is broken, it's not cow to cow, it's cow to insect to cow, you don't have a risk of, hey, look here, we've got some zebra running towards us. We're being charged by some zebra. I'll finish my story now. At present, crowned lapwing was the noise, and those birds that you see flying around over there, dive bombing all the impala, some crowned lapwing. And here this is a dazzle of zebra that is coming our way. Obviously just seen us now, moving from one place to another. Not quite sure what they were moving away from, but they were moving into the wind. Ah, Holly, you've requested that we look for the McCurdy Hurley, and so I dedicate this particular sighting on foot to you, Holly, this morning, and I'm glad that we got to show it to you. They're showing us the zebra's best side. I absolutely love the way that their tails never stop wagging. When they're standing in a row like they are there, waving their tails around, it's quite a nice sight. Have a look at that. Obviously standing together like that is necessary for confusing predators, and so that herding instinct that you see over there is zebra trying to dazzle lions so that they can't single out one particular thing. Right, we're quickly going to send you over to James, who's got a bird tweeting in the bush.
I'm not sure you could call it a tweet so much as a sort of fairly vociferous and monotonous blethering. That bird looks distressed, confused and irritated all at the same time, I feel. And it is, of course, the monotonous lark. Well, Martina, you say, how does this cloudy weather affect the birds? Clearly that bird, not one jot. It doesn't seem to be slightly affected by it, but the rest of the birds will be generally subdued. And it's funny, on a cloudy day like this, you notice immediately as the sun comes out an increase in volume as the other birds start to sing. So it's much quieter from a bird point of view when the weather is like this, except for this slightly ridiculous, monotonous lark. Look at him, doesn't he look astounded by life? Crest popped up, feathers a little scruffy. And he's like a small child on a soapbox, trying to give some. It was like a paper seller, like an old school paper seller. The confused one. Craig, you're wondering about the earliest bird, which you would expect to be catching a worm, but of the earliest bird out here is not a worm catcher, it is a seed eater. And it is the grey-headed sparrow. Now, the grey-headed sparrow, a very humble bird on account of the fact that it is brown and grey and not born of the spectacular colours of perhaps the carmine bee-eater. But he is up the earliest, and he's followed very closely by the crested francolin. And there the monotonous lark has headed off. I'm going to find you a picture. Tony, you say, is that specific bird molting? Yes, it could be. It could be molting. Birds are in a constant state, well, they're not all of them, but often in a constant state of molt, getting rid of old feathers and replacing them with new ones. That may have just been a scruffy piece of down. They don't like to have their dead feathers or old feathers on the body because, of course, they affect the way that the bird is able to fly. There's the grey-headed sparrow, the southern grey-headed sparrow. I have seen the northern grey-headed sparrow, Craig. Do you know where that was? Was in the north, yes. Yes, it was in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Not a place I'd recommend for anyone going on holiday. But nevertheless, there was the grey-headed sparrow in what can only be described as the armpit of Africa, Kinshasa. That is the capital of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Quite possibly the foulest place in all the world. I wouldn't recommend it. Holly, while we're looking at birds and hoping for leopards, you say, will the change of season bring in different birds? No, unfortunately it won't. What it will do is take away a whole lot of birds. We're going into the autumn fairly soon. In Johannesburg it already feels very autumnal. Out here it's just the edge of the summer's been taken off. We'll have another month or so of beautifully warm weather, and then we'll have a month of coolish weather, and then we'll have winter for 2 whole months where the temperature will drop to a terrifying, might drop to 4 degrees once, in which case we will all complain bitterly, but really we hardly have winter here. But Holly, what that does is that it does take some of the birds away. They migrate up towards the north to be in the summer. The swallows will go, many of the bee-eaters will go, all the cuckoos will go, a couple of the kingfisher species will disappear, a lot of the brown eagles will go. Sorry, I just keep turning off the road because I'm hoping for tracks, but there are only hyena tracks around here, you know. We'll go and have a look down here and then turn to the north. There is a mammal there, 2 mammals I believe, and I think that they are chestnut coloured with horns, weighing in at approximately 70 kilograms for a large male. Yes, impalas up ahead. I believe I can't find one track even of this cat. The monotonous lark carries on. We're definitely going to stop and look at these impala for, well, what else is there? Right. There we are. The wind's starting to pick up now, just in case the weather wasn't quite blustery or distressing enough. Right, there we are, Craig. Don't say I never find anything for you to film. There is 1 or 2 impala now heading behind a bush. Wonderful. can probably hear the wind starting to blow a bit. Now, the number of times I've heard guides say, gosh, look at this. Look how camouflaged the impala is. No, that impala is not camouflaged, it is hiding. Now, I'm just getting some information here from Rex and saying he's got some lion tracks. Rex, I did drive that road. Sorry, it was in the dark. I did miss those tracks. Confirm how many animals. There were lion tracks on Philemon's Dip. Copy, Rex. Confirm going south down Philemon's Dip. Straight Philemon's cut line. Philemon's cut line. Okay, I don't feel so bad. I didn't miss them there. Okay, we're going to go back along this way then. The Nkuhuma Pride. And while we do that, we'll head across to Stef, who's got himself the McCurdy Hurdy.
Alright, we're still with the McCurdy Hurdy actually. They haven't actually moved very far from where we were with them, to be honest. It's they've just moved into the thickets, they're busy feeding on the grass, and they look like they're going to be moving up onto the open areas. And I don't quite know, the only thing that I can put it down to is the wind is quite strong at the moment. And animals here, when the wind blows a lot and shakes the bushes around, quite often they become very nervous. And it's because they can't pick out any shapes of anything. And I think that's basically what's getting these animals into their state, is the fact that it's a bit windy and everything's a bit nervous. They've just been spooked by the impala being spooked in front of us. Let's stand over here. And while we wait for them to calm down and come out onto the open area, it'll allow me to finish what I was talking about a little bit earlier. And that would be the protein powder that is made from fly maggots. And then added to animal foods, which of course then are a substitute for their diet in monoculture, when we're farming one type of animal, and intensive farming practices like beef farming is. Have a look here. Now they're coming out onto the road for us. Hello there. Now, with the exception of the zebra that you were looking at, they all seem very relaxed with us on foot, and that's because at this particular distance today, with the wind blowing in the direction that it's blowing, we offer absolutely no threat to these zebra at this distance, which is about 50 yards from where we're standing at the moment. Other days, under other conditions, with the wind blowing in a different direction, that comfort zone that they're skirting at the moment would be much wider, and in some instances could even be a bit shorter. But standing here where I'm now, this is about as close as what you'd ever get to zebra on foot in the Kruger National Park. Now, Button's cockatoo, you wanted to know what the correct pronunciation of zebra or zebra. Is it zebra or is it zebra? Button's cockatoo, I presume you're from North America, from the United States of America, and in that sense, you are 100% correct in saying zebra. That's how North Americans pronounce zebra. If you come from South Africa and I suppose Europe in a way, Australia, we say zebra. So in the alphabet that we taught at school, we say Z and you say Z. And of course, there's nothing wrong. You can say whatever you like, and as long as it's spelt with a sharp angled squiggle in the front, you can end the EBRA anytime you want, I suppose. Now, being on the short plains like these zebra are, is exactly where they want to be when it's windy like it is now. They can't be ambushed by anything. They've got a lot of space to put those huge hindquarters into play. If they were to be chased by a lion, you can imagine how much speed they can generate from those massive haunches. And these are big zebra. These plains or Burchell zebra, out of the couple of different species of zebra that we get in Africa, they are the largest. And they grow to about 500 pounds for a big stallion. I don't think there's a stallion here. I don't know. Why are you running? Where are you going? This wind is definitely playing havoc. Now they're going to cross the road again. So now we have a zebra crossing, well, potentially. I know that's cheesy as anything, but you just have to say it. There we go. I have to excuse myself for that. I really don't like doing those types of things. But yeah, you can't help it. That tail just non-stop. For me, the favorite part of a zebra is the blaze on their face. So they have like a chevron. Hopefully we'll be treated to another look at the face of a zebra. However, I doubt it. I think they're just following this herd mare. The weird thing is they've made this entire circle around us at the moment. I don't quite know what and why. Why would they run one way and then go straight back again? And I think what I'm going to do is follow them. So we're going to keep a respectful distance, and by respectful we're going to see how they react to us walking with them on foot. And why don't we join the zebra herd and see where they go, basically. All right. But in the meantime, and until they get to a little bit more open place, why don't we go off to James, who's managed to find that an animal he was looking for.
Indeed we have. It was just after I last saw you, and so we've stopped heading towards where the lions were seen, and we're waiting around here where the leopard was last seen while we enjoy a sight of a very large elephant bull who has a missing tusk, and so he's quite easy to recognize. I'm not sure that I know who he is. I don't think I've seen him before. But there he is. He's now coming out, of course, because he wants to be on TV. It's nice to see. Good morning to you, sir. Did you have a good evening last night, perhaps? No? Well, I hope it wasn't too bad. Right, well, here we are then. He's coming out, so we're going to be a little bit careful of him. He is definitely in must. There is a lot of urine dripping from, well, where urine drips from, of course. And that means he is in must. He's in this very heightened stage or state of testosterone. He looks fairly relaxed, and again, I'm struck by what I feel is the need of elephants to have a conversation, especially bulls. I think they get very bored, and that's what I think this guy's doing. He's come out. There's no reason necessarily for him to be here other than to be interacting with us on some form of level. I'm not sure what level that is, but that's what I think he's doing. Now, Tracy, you ask a very good question about what you think could have broken his tusk. Tracy, I suspect that it was overuse. If you look at that broken tusk, it's much darker than the other tusks. Can you see that? And the darkness of his tusks indicates that that's the tusk that he uses when he is... Sorry, 1 second. Now, the darkness of his tusks indicates that that is the tusk he uses when he is digging or scraping bark from the top, from trees and that sort of thing. And so I suspect that he broke it through overuse. But I suspect that it was probably weakened, perhaps, by a crack, or which may in turn have been caused by something like an abscess. I'm not entirely sure. Obviously we will never know. It's just difficult to understand why something so very thick and very strong would break in the absence of some sort of fault. Now, he's not very far away from us. In fact, he's pretty close. He's probably about, what do you say, Craig, about 8 meters or so. We're just going to check the focus mark. And he's very relaxed at the moment, which is wonderful. Isn't he great? It's so lovely that he's being so confiding with us. And not in the slightest, but people will tell you that a muster-bull elephant is aggressive. Well, I don't think he's going to be aggressive. I hope he's not. Craigus, if I have to leave suddenly, you will hold on tight, will you? No, he's not being aggressive. He might be a little bit irritated. Oi! He just threw sand on us. Just going to give him a little start the engine, just to sort of make him hopefully back off. Oi! Alright, now what we're going to do is just move away, because he's clearly now having an interaction with us that, well, it's not making him uncomfortable, but his ire has been raised for some reason. So let's just move there. And the approach here for me is to stop any initial further interaction, which we did just by making a sound with the voice there, and then to increase the space. There's somebody driving along this road at about 780 kilometers an hour. I'm just going to have to quickly move off it. Xongile. Alright, okay, sorry, we're going to leave right now because there's a leopard just down here in the drainage line. That's what he said. He was doing 100 miles an hour, but we'll forgive him for that now. We'll carry on with that elephant discussion, but basically the approach there is to increase distance. I am not one who subscribes to the school of thought that by moving away from an elephant like that you're encouraging him to chase you. In fact, what happened there was quite the opposite. When we moved away, he also moved away. I don't think he would have come towards us. He may have put his trunk on the car, but that's the sort of thing we don't really want to encourage. He didn't give me any sense of threat. Right, we're nearing the drainage line now, and he says there was a leopard lying right inside the Mlwamati drainage. This is very exciting news. And I've got a crunchy taste in my mouth from the elephant throwing sand at us. And the starting of the engine will often just make them stop like that. Right, he says there was a leopard lying right here. There. Oh, sorry, Craig. It's Hosana. Go ahead. Is that Hosana or is it Xongile? Let me just look. Yeah, I've got him here. Stations located one young leopard cub on the southern side of Gari Main in the Mlwamati drainage. Animal is static. We've got this little Hosana. Hello, boy. What did you give your mother for her birthday yesterday? And there's a squirrel shouting at him. I haven't seen him for 3 weeks. Now the reason I was laughing there was because I slammed on anchors and Craig came scudding forward off his seat and went, "Ugh!" Zach, you're wondering about... Oh! There's another leopard just above us. Well, that's very exciting. Phew. There is Xongile. Zach, as we listen to this squirrel shouting at our two favourite characters. There is my favourite leopard right now. You say, are there any animals that call specifically leopard when they're alarm calling? Certainly monkeys do. We know that monkeys have an individual call for leopards. I imagine that there are other species that do, but that we perhaps haven't picked up the sound before, or picked up exactly the differences in the sound. Stations, both of Karula's cubs are in this position at the junction of Gari Main with Umluamati. And I think she's trying to catch the squirrel. Young leopards do like to try and catch squirrels. Craigus, let me go back a little bit. It might be a bit easier. I'll try not to slam the anchors on again so that you hurt yourself. Oh, that's lovely. Both of the cubs are here now. I'm just talking on the radio there. Now, if we move away from the cub in the tree, from Xongile, just for a second, I wonder if Hosana wasn't lying exactly there when we went past here before. Can you see him there, Craig? Just zoom right into the middle of your picture there. Up a bit. There he is. Can you see him? And I wonder if he wasn't lying right there. Okay, quickly, sorry, let's go back to Xongile. She's now performing in a quite remarkable fashion. Oh, what a relief this is to see these wonderful leopards, especially on a day like today. Sorry, Molly, I'm afraid I missed that question. Can we have it again, please, Becca? Oh, Molly, you say, who do I think will take over after Karula? Molly, I don't think that anyone's going to take over necessarily. I think what you'll find is that the territory will be divided. And it will be filled probably by Shadow to the east, so she'll probably come, at least to the west, she'll probably come further east. I'm going to have to move forward, Craig. There's just a bit much going on behind us. And then I think we'll also find that, Tundi would move in from the east, and that would just sort of be filled up, but her territory won't be replaced as such. Now, maybe let's just look at Hosana here. In fact, sorry, let me get into a position, let me just reverse back into the drainage, then we can have both of them. And we're the only ones that are allowed to do that, because we're the only ones from Djuma over here. Hosana is totally fearless of cars. It's so interesting. He's much less fearful of cars than he is of people on foot. Alright, now we've got them both. There's the one up in the tree. I wonder where Karula is. She could easily be right here. Ah, it's wonderful. Happy Jay, you say, do they have fat bellies? I think Hosana probably does. He's been eating an impala with his father, quite interestingly. but I don't see hugely fat bellies on them at the moment, no. So they could probably eat if they wanted to. That's a lovely picture there, isn't it? So they have been eating, and we know that they've been eating pretty well. But I'm sure they could eat again. Karula's work is never done when it comes to feeding them. And what I've been thinking about of late is the fact that, we talk often about the independence and when they go independent and how they go independent and does Karula chase them off, etc., etc. But I think what I've noticed amongst these two is that the process of independence is not a sudden one. It's not suddenly one day she decides that she's had enough of them. It's much longer than that. It takes much longer than that. And what I think we're seeing here is how it's a very gradual process, where they just start to spend more and more time on their own. Hosana's coming across the road here. Stocky little fellow. Yes, his belly does look full. Now this is exactly where we want him to be. He must come north into Djuma. I wonder how often we've driven past these creatures, and as the grass is so much longer than it has been, can you imagine how often we're driving past these two leopards and of course their mother? You still see him there, Craig? Okay, let's stick with the one in the tree then for now. I'll keep an eye out for Hosana, see if he pops out. She's having a great time. The squirrel is still shouting at her, but he's managed to calm himself down after the initial fright of having a leopard there. Fastidiously, like her mother, remaining clean. But of course the males do that as well, don't they? Well, sometimes, Mike, you say do leopards normally have the same graceful way of landing that house cats do? Well, yes and no. Certainly Xongile, far more so than Hosana, he tends to be fairly inelegant in his dismounts. You see, they're a lot heavier, and so when they land, it does look a lot heavier. They're much more elegant, for example, than lions when they go or descend from trees or anything that they've climbed, but they can sometimes find it a little awkward to go down vertically. I'm not sure if Hosana is still there. Oh, yes, he is. I can just see him. It's wonderful. Apparently there are a lot of people coming here from the south, so I'm not sure how long we're going to be able to be here, but we're going to extend it for as long as we can. Right, well, I'm going to listen to the radio. I think we should be able to stay here for a little bit longer. And we are, of course, going to hopefully show these beautiful leopards to the school. While I do that, I believe Stef has got quite tired and decided that he needs to take a small rest. So let's go and find out how comfortable the earth is behaving as his bed.
My friend James comes up with these things. I'm not really taking a small rest, to be quite honest with you. I'm lying on the road trying to puzzle out a interesting track and sign here. Come and have a look over here. This is quite obviously a solifuge, a fairly large one, but it's joined by a centipede, also a fairly large one, a cockroach, and it looks like an earwig. Now you might ask yourself the question, why do we have 4 different species of insects all laying in the same place? Initially I thought that the centipede and the solifuge had been squashed by a car while the solifuge was eating the centipede. But that's not the case, because if it was squashed by a car, they would be flat, and they're not. And so now we got to start thinking about other things. So you start looking around for tracks. And the only tracks that we have over here are from a thick-knee bird. Here's the track right here. And I'll try and see if I can circle one a bit closer to you. Here is one here. And I think what's happened over here is the thick-knee bird grabbed the centipede. The centipede bit the thick-knee bird on the inside of the mouth, which caused the thick-knee to regurgitate its dinner. The dinner consisting of a cockroach, an older earwig, an earwig, and then this partially digested solifuge with another there's another cockroach there. Isn't that amazing? It's the first time I've seen this regurgitation. I'm sure it happens, but there we have literally 3 different types of insects all lying in the same place. There might even be another one here. That's the centipede that's been squashed up on itself in the bird's crop. There is another insect there. That's a spider. So we've got a spider, a centipede, an earwig, may even be 2, an earwig, and a cockroach, and a solid, all regurgitated by this thick-knee bird. Interesting, eh? I think that's about the story for that. I don't think there is much else. These flies today are just insane. You can see them buzzing around my head and buzzing around my arm over here. You can have a look at them over here in their thousands. And these flies bite. So if you don't disturb them so that they fly away from you, they inject a little needle into you, and it is insanely irritating. I'm trying my best to love them today. It's not really working, to be quite honest. Alright, we're going to send you back over to James and Xongile in the tree.
Xongile is still in a tree, and sounds like Stef found a bit of a crime scene over there. Fascinating stuff. Now you see, this is a great way to experience the bush. I think we've got a really sort of iconic sighting here with leopard in tree, the kind of thing that people pay thousands of dollars on a nightly basis to come and see in the Sabi sand, take hundreds of pictures. And then at the other end of the scale we have Stef on foot, finding those astounding things that his rather amazing eyes are able to pick up, and then sharing all sorts of insights about the smaller aspects and just as important aspects of this reserve's ecology. And I think that's a wonderful way to experience nature out here. As we always say, it's not all about the big stuff. Not that you could describe that elegant cat as big stuff. She's much too elegant. Let no one ever describe my favourite leopard at the moment. Of course, my favourite leopard will change, I've no doubt. That's okay. Do you have to have the same favourite leopard? I don't think you have to. But for now, she's my favourite. Craig, do you have a favourite leopard? You don't have one, says Craig. Rebecca says it's like having a favourite child, which is palpable nonsense. Thank you, Rebecca. Rebecca's just back from leave, of course, so she hasn't quite regained her sanity. And you can, I don't know if you've noticed this, but you can perhaps notice how quiet the morning is on account of the weather. Yoli, you've been looking at the back end of Xongile, and so you reckon that she's got a longer tail than the average leopard. Yoli, I don't think so, no. I think maybe it looks like that because she's much less stocky than Hosana, but I don't think that her tail is any longer than anyone else's, I'm afraid. I think her tail is a standard issue, sort of leopard length. Although, Yoli, now, you see, I haven't really noticed this before, but you say that, and I'm just wondering if perhaps you aren't right. Now, we were asked about of course, the elegance with which a cat is able to get out of a tree. Now, you're watching here, and certainly our lady members of the guiding team, specifically Jamie, has spoken at length about the inelegance of Hosana in his descent, and I've detected a note of sort of, well, if not feminism, certainly an element of what shall we say, female bias in her assessments. There she comes, and I think, well, it wasn't too bad. It was actually, I'm going to have to agree with Jamie, I think that was more elegant than her brother's capable of. She'll just have a little clean now, because that's what leopards do. And what she must do, of course, is come north towards her brother. That will make us all very happy indeed. I mean, that is a wonderful picture. Yes, come on, come this way. Oh, it's so nice to spend a bit of time with him again. I wonder where her mum is. Their mum's probably gone off hunting. Johan had her last in the far eastern boundary, as I said yesterday. There she is, now I'm going to settle gently. Cheryl, you're wondering about the hunting and whether they have an easier time. Oh, look, just to the left. Right, sorry, that's the right-hand side, isn't it? You say, do leopards have an easier time hunting in the longer grass? Yes, they do, especially in the day. You know, the grass gives them such an excellent place to hide. There is a disadvantage to it as well, though, Cheryl, and that disadvantage is the fact that they find it difficult to see over the top of the grass. Now, that might seem almost trivial, but it isn't. It's not easy to see over the tops of the grass when it's this long, and that means that They have to keep popping their heads up. Sometimes they can't do that. They actually have to stand up on their back legs. They will leap up and look. And I think it's most nicely illustrated if you go to Cheetah Plains and you watch the cheetah walking through the plains there. It's quite difficult for them to see what's going on. And it's the same for the leopards. But that said, I still think that it's an easier time for them to hunt than it would be otherwise. So it's why leopards and lions will give birth predominantly in the summer months. Not always, they can give birth in the winter. In fact, most of our last group of cubs were birthed during the winter time. But for the stalking predators, the thicker the bush is, the easier it is. This is just great stuff. And I'm going to keep an eye on her brother, because her brother is now stalking her. Let's have a look this side, Craig. He's coming this way. Either that or he's gone to sleep, but he looks to me like he's about to stalk her. I can't believe no one else has come to the sighting. It's just too wonderful to have both of these leopards all to ourselves. Of course, we've yet to see their mother, who turned 13 years old yesterday. Bless her. No, he's gone, so let's go back to the other leopard. I'll keep an eye on the male. If he decides to do anything, we'll move. Everything very calm. I think it certainly tells me that they have had a fairly substantial amount of food over the last few days. She looks very content. She's a special cat, this one. Now her brother is flat in the grass. I'm 99% sure that we drove straight past both of them when we came past here earlier this morning. Ian, you're 10 years old and you're in Canada, and you're asking a very good question to which I'm not sure there's a very good answer. And so I hope that you will be satisfied with what I'm going to say to you. You say, why do leopards have rosettes and cheetahs have spots? Why is one helpful in one context and not the other? I think what you'll find is that it's quite a complicated answer, Ian, and I don't know how much about things like evolution or the advantages of adaptation, but it's basically the same or similar solution to the same problem. So the problem that these cats have, of course, is the need to stay hidden all the time. And so what you need to do if you want to stay hidden, in the case of these cats, is to try and, the spots help them to stay hidden when they're hunting. Now, it just happens, here the male's up, it just happens, Ian, that there are two different ways you can do that. You can do that with spots, or you can do it with rosettes. And these cats developed at different times. And what happened is that they've now developed the same strategy, or a different strategy, for the same problem. So I don't think that there's any real advantage to having rosettes versus spots. I just think that that's how nature has made them, and it's given them two different solutions to the same problem of being hidden. See, now he's going to stalk his sister. She's looking for him. Look at that. I don't think she can see him. Oh, that's a wonderful picture of her there. Let's just keep an eye there. I think they probably will leap onto each other fairly soon. Well, let's move around. Let's move around there to the fire break. We'll just wait for this other vehicle to go past. Hello, Monique. Would you like to say hello to her yourself?
No, I'm not watching now. I'm live.
Yes, I know you are. But would you like to say hello to her?
Can I say hello to my mother?
Yeah, please would you put the camera on this fellow?
Monique, Judith, we're having a great time. I hope you're watching Safari Live. We are live. We are live.
Sorry, Rebecca, go again with that. How cool is that? Okay, we're going to be joined by a school very shortly. And so, well, I think we're going to play on what we call the ident, and then you'll be back with me. Good morning, everybody, at the Christian Lion School in Hong Kong, of all places. You're on your very first live safari here from the northeast corner of South Africa, and you are the luckiest people in the world, really. Well, certainly in Hong Kong. There we have a gorgeous leopard, and we don't see that every day. My name is James, and for the next 45 minutes, me and Stef, yes, that is English, isn't it? Yes. No, Stef and I will be your hosts, and we're going to be hopefully spending a good half hour with these leopards. Craig is on camera here at the moment, and any questions you have would be glad to answer, and we look forward to answering any queries or questions that you might have. We're going to carry on moving just round the corner here and get another look. That is a young male leopard. He was born in February 2016, so he's a year and 1 month old. His sister is just across the road. Ooh, this is wonderful stuff. And their mother is now 13. She had her birthday yesterday. They're the two cubs on the road in front of us. We'll just wait here. There are, of course, other safari vehicles in the area. Now, what I'm going to do, Craig, sorry, I'm going to move quite quickly. We're going to go around on this road here and get a nice view. So any questions you have, kids, please feel free to answer them. Well, you're not really kids anymore, are you? Sort of 12 to 13 years. And it's great to have you here all the way from Hong Kong. Valerie, you say, are these animals tame? Valerie, they are not tame at all. They are just used to us, which means that they are happy to go about their lives while we are near them, but they're not tame. You couldn't get out of the car and touch them. You sometimes can get close to them on foot, but you don't want to touch them. They are completely wild animals. And it's just through the, many years of spending time with animals out here that they've become used to our presence in vehicles, but they are in no way tame. I'll hopefully pick them up coming around here.